Welcome to our explainer. Today, we are getting into something really fascinating, narrative therapy. It's a way of looking at psychology that asks this one powerful question. Are you really the author of your own life story, or is something else holding the pen? Let's find out. I mean, really think about it for a second. In the movie of your life, do you feel like you're the one in the driver's seat, making the big choices, pushing the plot forward? Or, does it sometimes feel like maybe you've been cast in a supporting role instead? And that's a feeling so many of us can relate to, right? It's that feeling when a problem, anxiety maybe, or self-doubt or depression, just seems to hijack the whole story. It's calling the shots, setting the mood, and we're just kind of there for the ride. But what if I told you there's a way to reclaim that main character energy? So, here's how we're going to break it all down today. First, we'll get into the core idea of the story of you. Then we'll explore what's called a new kind of agency. After that, we'll check out the author's tools, the actual techniques. We'll look at the raves and critiques, because we need that balance. And finally, we'll talk about writing your next chapter. All right, let's dive into section 1. This is all about the central metaphor here. The idea that your life is a story, and you have the power to shape it. So what is narrative therapy? Well, at its heart, it's a really respectful, non-blaming way of looking at therapy. And it's all built on this pretty radical idea. You are not your problem. The problem is the problem, and you just have a relationship with it. A relationship that, and this is key, can absolutely be changed. Okay, and this brings us to a really crucial idea, agency. Narrative therapy has this powerful and honestly totally different take on what it actually means to be in control of your own life. And you can see the huge shift in thinking right here. A lot of traditional psychology kind of treats agency like a personality trait you're stuck with. You either have it or you don't. But the narrative view, it's completely different. It says agency isn't something you have, it's something you do. It's a skill you can actually develop, something you build through your words, your actions, and your relationships. And this idea comes straight from the source material. Agency is seen as an achievement. It's not some fixed thing you're born with. It's an active, ongoing process of influencing your own life story. And the most important part of that? If it's an achievement, that means anyone can work toward it. This quote, this is pretty much the foundation of the whole approach. It completely flips the normal power dynamic on its head. The therapist isn't some all-knowing guru who's there to fix you. Nope, you are the expert. The therapist is more like a co-editor or a co-author, helping you find and highlight the expertise you already have about your own life. Okay, so if you're the expert, how do you actually start taking back your story? Well, narrative therapy offers a really specific set of tools to do just that, and that's what we're looking at next. We're going to look at 3 key techniques. First is separating yourself from the problem, that's called externalization. Second is finding these amazing sparkling moments or unique outcomes. And third, it's about focusing on your intentions, or what the therapy calls your intentional states. This first step, externalization, is a total game changer. So instead of saying, I am an anxious person, you learn to say something like, I'm a person who is dealing with anxiety right now. You see that subtle difference? The problem becomes this external thing, like an unwelcome character in your story that you can actually challenge or negotiate with or maybe even kick to the curb. You go from being a passive victim of the problem to being an active protagonist who can fight back. Next up, the therapist helps you hunt for these unique outcomes. These are any moments, no matter how tiny, where you didn't do what the problem wanted you to do. Maybe anxiety was screaming at you to stay inside, but you managed to go for a 5-minute walk anyway. Boom, that's a unique outcome. By collecting these sparkling moments, you start building a whole new story, a counter-narrative that's not about the problem's power, but about your own strength and your own competence. And finally, the focus shifts to your intentions. So let's say you tried to speak up in a meeting, but it just came out all wrong. Instead of dwelling on the failure, this approach asks, what were you hoping for in that moment? Maybe you were trying to be assertive or share a great idea. Just by honoring that intention, you reinforce your agency, your desire to act and shape your world, even if the outcome wasn't perfect. It moves the whole conversation away from shame and towards your purpose. Now, of course, like any good story, this one isn't without its plot twists. This approach has some really powerful strengths, but there are also some important critiques we need to look at to get the full picture. And the strengths are pretty clear. It's incredibly empowering, especially for people who felt unheard or dismissed. It builds resilience by creating what the source material calls a pantry of resources, this awesome collection of your past wins that you can always draw from. And it's sustainable. It gives you the skills to keep reauthoring your story long after you've left the therapist's office. But there are some fair critiques to consider. For one, some critics worry that by focusing so much on personal stories, it might overlook very real systemic barriers like poverty or racism. Another point is that for someone in a really severe crisis, this burden of choice to rewrite their own story might feel like too much when just getting through the day is a massive struggle. And finally, this whole idea of the self as author is a very Western, individualistic concept. It might not be a perfect fit for more collectivist cultures, where identity is seen as much more interconnected with the group. So, with all of that in mind, what's the last page of this explainer? What's the big takeaway here? Well, here's the bottom line. Agency, when you look at it through the lens of narrative therapy, isn't about just ignoring reality or pretending problems don't exist. Not at all. It's about refusing to let those problems be the only thing that defines you. It's a transformative tool for taking back a sense of meaning and purpose, especially when you feel like the world has only seen you for what's wrong. And that leaves us with one final thought for you to take with you. Think about a challenge you're dealing with right now. Can you think of just one small moment, one unique outcome, where you acted based on your values and not on the problem's rules? Finding and holding on to that one small moment, that's the first sentence of your next chapter.